From Neural Newscast, this is Nerfed, where games, culture, and strategy intersect.
Nerfed, the Xbox Identity Crisis. I am Vanessa Calderon.
And I'm Marcus Shaw. Today's show is packed with rebrands, lore drops, and some seriously questionable studio decisions.
Starting with today's announcement, Microsoft Gaming is officially dead. Long live Xbox. CEO Asha Sharma and Matt Booty confirmed the division is rebranding back to its roots. They're calling it a high agency culture, which is corporate speak for we're trying to remember who we are. It is a massive shift from the broad, all-encompassing Microsoft gaming umbrella we have seen for the last few years. The leadership team seems to be acknowledging that the brand had become somewhat diluted by trying to be everything to everyone. By returning to the Xbox name exclusively, they are signaling a refocus on the core gaming community and the hardware that started it all. This move comes at a time when the platform's identity has been under intense scrutiny from both fans and shareholders, who have questioned the long-term viability of their multi-platform strategy. Sharma was quite direct in the internal memo, stating that the overhead of the Microsoft gaming structure was slowing down decision-making processes. Under this new high-agency model, individual studio heads will supposedly have more autonomy to greenlight projects and manage their budgets without constant interference from the upper echelons of the Redmond hierarchy. It is a gamble, certainly, but one that many feel was necessary after a string of high-profile delays and a lack of consistent first-party hits.
It is a total 180-degree turn, Vanessa. The focus is now on Project Helix, which they say will lead in performance by playing both console and PC games natively. They also mentioned an uncomfortable level of self-critique within the team. Given the recent shakeups, I would say uncomfortable is putting it lightly. Project Helix is really the center of this new strategy. The goal is to bridge the gap between high-end PC gaming and the accessibility of a home console in a way that feels seamless. If they can actually pull off native performance for PC titles on an Xbox-branded device, it changes the value proposition entirely. No more stripped-down ports or compromised frame rates. They want to be the premium destination for power users again. That uncomfortable level of self-critique they mentioned suggests a level of internal friction that we rarely hear about in official press releases. It indicates that the previous strategy of total ecosystem integration at the expense of hardware identity was a point of major contention. They are effectively admitting that the Xbox Series generation has not lived up to their own internal benchmarks. It is refreshing to hear that level of honesty, even if it is tucked away in rebranding language. They are clearly looking at the success of handheld PC market leaders and realizing they need to offer something that offers that level of versatility while maintaining the power of a dedicated home unit.
Seriously. And the exodus continues. Kiki Wolfkill, the veteran producer who has been at Microsoft for 28 years, announced she is moving on. She has been the backbone of Halo and recently led the film and TV division. It feels like the old guard is being completely cleared out. Wolfkill was synonymous with the growth of the Halo franchise, from a game into a cultural phenomenon. Her work on the transmedia side, particularly the Halo television series, was a massive undertaking that showed her ability to navigate complex production environments. Seeing someone with nearly 3 decades of experience leave right as this rebranding takes place is a major signal. It suggests that the high agency culture Marcus mentioned might not have space for the leadership styles that defined the previous eras. While it is always expected for talent to rotate, Wolfkill was one of the few remaining links to the foundational days of the Xbox division. Her departure, combined with the other recent exits, creates a massive vacuum in veteran leadership. It leaves one wondering how much institutional knowledge is being lost in this rush to modernize. She was instrumental in maintaining the narrative integrity of their biggest IP during very turbulent transitions between developers. Without her steady hand, the future of Halo's expanded universe feels a lot more uncertain than it did even a week ago.
It is a new era, for better or worse. Between Phil Spencer retiring and Sarah Bond resigning earlier this year, Sharma is definitely molding a different version of Xbox. But while Xbox is looking at the future, Nintendo is busy rewriting the past. The landscape of the console wars has changed so fundamentally that the old rivalries almost feel quaint. Sharma is building a leaner, more aggressive company that looks more like a tech startup than a legacy hardware manufacturer. This new leadership is less about the legacy of the platform and more about the efficiency of the software delivery. However, the timing of these departures is what really stands out. You do not see this many heavy hitters leave in such a short window unless there is a fundamental disagreement about the direction of the company. It feels like a clean break from the Phil Spencer era of the good guy of gaming. We are moving into a period where the business side is taking priority over the community building side. But turning our attention to Nintendo, they are finding ways to dominate the conversation without even talking about hardware. They are masters of using their history to generate buzz, and this latest move with Miyamoto is proof that they know exactly what their fans want.
Oh, the lore nerds are eating well this week, Marcus. Shigeru Miyamoto suggested that the Super Mario Galaxy movie backstory, which reveals Princess Peach and Rosalina are sisters born from Stardust, is now official game canon. Peach was apparently sent to the Mushroom Kingdom for safety as a child. This is a massive revelation for a franchise that has historically avoided deep narrative continuity. For years, fans have debated the origins of Peach and the mysterious backstory of Rosalina, and now we have a definitive link. Miyamoto basically confirmed that the film's narrative beats are being retroactively applied to the games. It suggests a more unified approach to the Mario universe moving forward. The idea that they are beings of stardust adds a layer of cosmic mythos that we have only glimpsed in titles like Mario Galaxy. It explains why Peach has such a unique position in the Mushroom Kingdom, and why she possesses abilities that the average Toad does not. This kind of world building is exactly what fans have been asking for. It makes the upcoming game releases feel like they are part of a larger, more cohesive story, rather than just isolated adventures. We are seeing Nintendo finally embrace the idea of a cinematic and gaming multiverse where the events in one medium have actual consequences and weight in the other. It is a smart way to keep the older audience engaged while drawing in new fans who might only know the characters from the big screen.
I love that Miyamoto admitted he used to avoid deep backstories because they were a constraint. Now he says it is fun to expand on them. It makes those old Rosalina storybook segments in Galaxy feel a lot more significant. Speaking of the cosmos, Splatoon Raiders is coming to the Switch 2 on July 23rd as a single-player treasure hunter. This move by Miyamoto is a huge departure from his traditional design philosophy. He has always been a gameplay-first creator, often viewing story as something that gets in the way of the fun. To hear him admit that he is finding joy in lore expansion is a sign that Nintendo is evolving its creative process. It also gives more weight to the emotional core of these characters. The Rosalina storybook was always a bit of an outlier in terms of its tone, and now we see it was the precursor to a much larger narrative strategy. As for Splatoon Raiders, this is an unexpected but welcome pivot for the series. Splatoon has always been defined by its multiplayer chaos, but the lore of that world is so rich and strange that it deserves a dedicated solo experience. Moving away from the turf war mechanics to a treasure hunting focus allows them to explore the post-apocalyptic settings in much greater detail. Being a launch window title for the Switch 2 also means we are going to see some incredible visual upgrades. The fluid physics alone should be a massive step up from what we saw in the original hardware.
That is a huge shift for Splatoon, but I am here for the salmonid fighting solo adventure. Now, let's pivot to the dark stuff. Metro 2039 is real, and it is going back to the tunnels. 4A Games says this is their darkest story yet, featuring a new protagonist named Stranger and the return of Hunter from the first game. The Metro series has always been a masterclass in atmosphere and tension, but 2039 sounds like it is pushing those elements to the extreme. By moving the focus back into the Metro tunnels, they are returning to the claustrophobic horror that made the original game so iconic. While Metro Exodus was a great expansion into the open world, many fans miss that sense of being trapped underground with things that go bump in the dark. The introduction of the Stranger as a protagonist is an interesting choice. It suggests a more detached perspective on the warring factions of the Metro. And bringing back Hunter, a character who's been shrouded in mystery since the very beginning of the series, is a huge move for longtime fans. It implies that the narrative is coming full circle and addressing some of the lingering questions from the original book and game. 4A Games has always been technically proficient, and I cannot wait to see what they can do with modern hardware to make those dark tunnels feel even more oppressive.
The focus on frozen stories, environmental storytelling without dialogue, sounds haunting. And over in Sanctuary, Diablo IV is adding the Paladin and Warlock classes in the Lord of Hatred DLC on April 28th. The Paladin is apparently playable immediately if you pre-order. The concept of frozen stories in Metro really intrigues me. It suggests a level of confidence in their visual design where they can tell a story purely through the environment. It fits the world perfectly. In a place where hope is dead and everyone is just struggling to survive, silence can be a lot more powerful than 100 lines of dialogue. As for Diablo, the community has been clamoring for the Paladin since launch. It is such a foundational class for the series, and its absence was definitely felt. Adding the Warlock alongside it provides a great balance between holy magic and dark arts. The Lord of Hatred expansion looks like it is going to provide a significant amount of content for the endgame players who have been looking for a reason to jump back in. Blizzard is clearly trying to maintain the momentum they have built up with the recent seasonal updates. Offering the Paladin early for pre-orders is a classic move to drive those early sales numbers, but given how much people want that class, it will likely be very successful. April 28th is just around the corner, so fans do not have to wait much longer to see how these new classes shake up the current meta.
Finally, we have to talk about the mess at Build a Rocket Boy. MindsEye staff are suing the developer over allegations of a toxic culture of secrecy and the installation of secret surveillance software on employee machines. Mark Gerhardt reportedly blamed a 1%. That is the problem for the surveillance. This situation is incredibly disturbing. The allegations suggest a level of employee monitoring that goes far beyond standard security protocols. Staff are claiming that software was installed without their knowledge or consent, recording everything from their keystrokes to their active screen time while working from home. This is a massive breach of trust, especially in a creative industry that relies so heavily on the passion and dedication of its workers. Gerhardt's attempt to deflect the blame onto a small group of problematic employees does not seem to be landing well with the workforce. It creates an environment of paranoia and fear where nobody feels safe. If these allegations are proven true, it could have serious legal repercussions for the studio. Build a Rocket Boy was supposed to be the ambitious new venture from Leslie Benzies, a chance to move away from the corporate structures of places like Rockstar. Instead, it sounds like they have created something far more restrictive and invasive. The lawsuit is seeking damages for privacy violations and emotional distress, and it is being watched closely by labor advocates across the entire tech sector.
Installing monitoring software that records keystrokes and taking screenshots in people's homes? That is a massive bridge to burn with your talent, especially after they already laid off 300 people last year. Not exactly the high agency culture Vanessa was talking about earlier. It is the exact opposite, really. High agency implies trust and autonomy, while secret surveillance implies a complete lack of faith in your team. When you treat your developers like potential criminals or slackers, you are going to lose the very creativity that makes your games worth playing. The psychological toll of knowing you are being watched at all times, especially in your own home, cannot be overstated. It leads to burnout and a total collapse of morale. The irony here is that MindsEye is such an ambitious project that it needs a motivated, highly functional team to succeed. By alienating the workforce through these tactics, they are sabotaging their own product. The 300 layoffs from last year already had the team on edge, and this discovery was the breaking point for many. It is a cautionary tale for any studio head who thinks that surveillance is a substitute for actual management and leadership. You cannot build the future of gaming on a foundation of distrust and invasive monitoring. It will be very interesting to see how the court handles the privacy claims regarding the home environment, as it could set a major precedent for remote work across the globe.
Industry drama never sleeps, and neither do the lawsuits. That's the wrap for this week. I am Vanessa Calderon.
And I'm Marcus Shaw.
Neural Newscast is AI-assisted, human-reviewed. View our AI transparency policy at neuralnewscast.com. Find us at Nerfed.ai. Thanks for listening to Nerfed.
This has been Nerfed on Neural Newscast, where games, culture, and strategy intersect.